So this is what we're talking about: spending on things rather than on mental health. Spending on things and not them. Um, or spending on things and not themselves. Did you realize it's easier for people to spend on things and their rather than their mental health? One of the reasons is that because it's a cultural dilemma that we have been trained, we have been, it's easier. We tend to prioritize spending on materialistic things than rather on things such as our mental health or an aspect of spending on ourselves. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and we're gonna talk about them. But tell me if you guys can relate with this, what she is saying here.
Or deal with somebody, whether that's a relationship, friendship, like coworkers, whatever, and you genuinely wonder what the fuck is wrong with them, because normal people wouldn't go out of their way to be rude. Normal people wouldn't go out of their way to disregard your feelings or disrespect you over and over again. It's mental illness. Stop wondering, stop trying to piece it together. Some people are mentally ill, and a lot of people don't get the help that they need for it, either because they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, because one thing's for sure is that there are a lot of people, there's a lot of people who are going through mental health illnesses and they never address them because for some reason it's easier to spend your money on things than rather to spend it on your mental illness. And a lot of the time, some of you probably have met or have dealt with someone like that who is going through, who you would say that this person is like, we'll use the common word of this person is crazy, or this person doesn't feel sane or not balanced, or this person is like, somewhat no good. But it's like, it's so many people out there who are going through these things.
have the resources, or they don't feel like anything is wrong with them.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing because some people can not have the resources. That's different. But the worst thing is when they don't feel like nothing is wrong with them, or they feel that they are all okay, and when their actions and the way that they treat other people is just doesn't seem normal. It's just like you're doing all of this, but then saying that you are mentally sane, um it's not sane, to be honest. It is, all the actions are anti-social, meaning that you need to be, we are, whether we like it or not, we are around each other, and whether we have a problem with that or not, it's gonna still be the case. So the best thing we can do is to try to find common grounds of how we can live better together in harmony, or work together and better in harmony in different ways. But these people, they always find a way to do some things that are just like unseemingly out of like that a sane, a rational person wouldn't do, and then they will say, okay, well, they are mentally sane. But yeah, it's just when they don't want to admit it, then that's when it becomes dangerous.
Especially in the Black community, where therapy and mental health is so talked down upon, and it's like, no, you just need to get stronger, you just need to get up. Sometimes people are mentally ill.
True, because there's a lot of different stigma. We're gonna talk about this as well. There's a lot of different stigma of people just need to get stronger. They don't need to address the mental illness or mental challenge. I like to call it, because sometimes when we think of illness, we try to connect a negative viewpoints to it. But sometimes it's just like people are just, for example, they just, in different cultures, they say when you're going through a illness or mental challenge, we need to just be stronger. It's because you are weak, that's why you're going through it, or you're not strong enough, that's the reason why you're not able to overcome it. But a lot of the time, I would say, it's not because the person is weak, it's not because that, that the person is not capable, because this is one of the reasons why, in a lot of communities, they tend to fall behind, because they think that they only look at illnesses from this physical standpoint. They don't think of it as on the emotional or the mental standpoint. Although these things, we can get mentally scarred, we can go through trauma, we can go through events that cause us to feel depressed, or events that make us very much depressed. So these are real things that we actually go through. But because because the wound or the cut or the the issue is not something that we can see. All of the time we think, okay, since we cannot see it, then it doesn't exist.
And when y'all try to act like the shit is not real, obviously we're going to be walking around with a bunch of people who don't know how to regulate their emotions, who don't know how to say what they feel, who don't know how to be a good person.
True.
We're going to meet those people every single day.
True. And we have to be dealing with these people and putting up with them. Meeting with them is like they don't know how to regulate themselves, don't know what they are going through, and they just like, they just live in the world with other people who just creating trouble or creating problems for other people, and then they be thinking, okay, it's fine and it's just normal, it's the same thing, something that they have to do in order for people to not hurt them. Even a lot of the time when you're just minding your own business, you don't even want to be dealing with these people, but then still it's a mental illness because when they feel that they always have to be trying doing something in order so it's something for them to feel a type of way that is to feel better about themselves. And a lot of the time that is just a big flaw, a big character flaw. To be, when you have a character flaw, a lot of the time you cannot see it. A lot of the time you try to mask it with other things, but to realize that you don't have to do so much in order to feel this, to feel that you are better than other people, especially if the person don't even care. Because there are some people, that we would meet in our daily lives or in our lives that we don't even care about them as much, whether they come and go, whatever, but then they want to try to and put themselves into our lives and make some stupid comments or just try to make some comments that are just, like it's that we don't even value for ourselves. But again, these are people who are just mentally drained, and then they feel like they have to do so much in order to get your attention, in order to make you feel some type of way. And the majority of the time is trying to make you feel in a negative way. But again, once you have mental resiliency, whatever they do, they cannot really, hurt you. It's just like it can at the very least, it can be somewhat annoying, but that's the very least thing that it can actually do. And basically, it doesn't really have any power.
Like, I'm a bartender. When I get rude customers like that have a problem for no fucking reason, I used to internalize it. I actually used to go the fuck off because like you're not about to sit here and disrespect me. But I had to learn some people have mental illness and that's just it.
Yes, and some people just have mental illness and that's just it. And a lot of these people are just running around the world or just being outside and they look good, they look like everything is put together. They don't look like they are going through mental illnesses because again, remember, mental illnesses is not something that you can see, with just your eyes like that all of the time. If you have a trained eyes, you can see it. There are signs that you can see it, but it's not always something that we can observe with our eyes. It's something that that is more in the psyche. When you are dealing with the person, that's when you can recognize they have a mental illness. um Hi, Cam. So while our bodies, one thing's for sure that most people they rather spend their money on things, on materialistic things, than rather spend their money on their or invest their money in their mental health. Because the worst thing is that they think that this is a good thing for them to do because like to get something, to get like a phone is something that you can see in front of you, something that is tangible. But our bodies, our mind, our emotions, our spirit is what we take into the future with us. Is what we help us to create the relationships that we want, to get the amount of money that we want, to get the jobs that we want, and to create the dream life that we actually want. But not working in our mental wellness or our mental health or whatever mental challenges that we are going through is putting ourselves in a deficit. And the thing is that people put their focus in the moment gratification and the very moment. All of us, most people want things to happen right now. We we want to have things concretely. We want to have a new phone, new clothes, or we want to have things that are immediate, things that are tangible at this moment, things that you can see, you can touch. And and also the benefits of it feels very real and instantly. But the thing is, when we look at mental health and investment in your mental health, or an investment in finding a good coach, the wellness treatment, it tends to be more subtle, but but the benefits are very much, in the long run. Because think about it, it's when we think about our mental health, and when we think about, or even the process of developing a mental health challenge, it's not something that, or it can be something that happens just like that, but it's something that happens over time as well. And these things, when it happens over time, a lot of the time, as people, we just try to treat ourselves as if we are a product as well, as if we can buy something. That's why we get, anxiety pills, or just pills that we can, that can make us feel better, or just can numb our senses in order to make us feel better in the moment. But the thing is, when we have, it takes time to develop some illnesses. It takes time to get out of shape. It takes time for us to basically develop some mental challenges that we are dealing with. So logically, we would think that it takes time as well to, get to have a balanced mental health as well. But most people, we just so used to the fast-paced world. We're so used to that we need to have things happen right now, that we want to have things so tangible in front of our faces like that. So when it comes to focusing on our wellness and our mental wellness, it can be a very slow, progress are very slow, and it's internal, so you don't get to see it as well. So that makes it very hard to see the value of your money, or make it very hard to see the value of where you're spending your money. So let me see what you guys said. They want everything except the best for their mental health. That is true. They want everything. It's interesting, true. But it is society that directs us most. But it is society that is distracting us most, or that distracts most. It distracting them most. It is a personal choice. It is a personal choice. It is a personal choice, but when you said that it is society that distracted them most, it is a personal choice. But at the same time, this is why I'm having this conversation. It's to bring awareness, because a lot of the time some people can be going through it. They can be in the hamster wheel, just basically keep going, living their lives. They don't even recognize, open their eyes to see what's actually going on, or to see what state that they are in. And a lot of the time they just stuck into their ways. And so once they have the other side of it, or they can see the other side of it, then they can be able to actually choose. And then that's when it becomes a choice, because you have to think about it. For so many different marketing, so many different sales, or different ways they try to sell us things, try to get us into buying into their products. Sometimes that can make us feel that it can take us away from reality, or it can just take us away from seeing different options of healing that are out there. And there's a thing that we live in most people live in a stigma, or even a perception trap. So meaning that mental health is a stigma, is very much a stigmatized and looked down upon. That can be something that we put people out, we trying to fit in boxes, or we trying to fit in rather. When we look at mental health, some cultures really see, when you are trying to work on your mental health, some cultures can see it as, you need to be stronger, or it's a sign of weakness, because that you have mental challenges, or mental, that you are going through something mentally, or something that you are going through emotionally. They're like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you just get over this? Why don't you, your grandparents didn't have to go through these things. Your grandparents, just basically tough it out. But the thing is, what they didn't realize is that our grandparents, a lot of the time, the quality of life, the structure that we have right now was not the same. And at the same time, they used to live way younger than us. And they used to, it's like a lot of the time, although most people would say, yes, they would like to go back and have a simpler life, but they don't really mean that. Because when we think about a simple life in terms of how our grandparents used to live, we would choose today more than we would choose the moments that they used to live, because it was really, really hardship. Imagine that Now we have, everything is so immediate, everything is so easy to get. We have it there. Would you guys, really give the internet, really give power, really give your telephone for to go back to, to the way things used to be, or where when your grandparents or your great grandparents used to live? Most likely you want to live in the moment right now, but you want to be able to, to also be able to live a balanced life, because some cultures even see that mental health challenges or mental health is something that is looked upon as being crazy. Or are you crazy? Why are you actually putting focus into this? And it's something that many cultures and many different people actually see. And they also look at it as from the standpoint spending money on mental health, because again, when people are shamed for being going through a mental challenge that they are going through, or something that traumatizes them, and they are ashamed for that, and that can create a situation that they put themselves in a box and they don't want to get out of it. So so when they try to go beyond and spend their money and on their mental health, so that can also, they can feel that, okay, I'm admitting that I'm having a mental that I have a mental flaw within myself. Am I admitting that I'm not perfect? But this is a wrong way of actually looking at life. Just like, yeah, just a mask. It's a wrong way of looking at life. Just like when you will have a physical illness, if when people have a physical illness, or you have a cut, you got a bruise, are you thinking to yourself, okay, I'm flawed, that's why I have these things? No, you're not thinking about that. You're trying to think, okay, what can you do to actually solve it, or what can you do to actually feel better, to not go through the pain, or to release yourself from the worries. And but when it comes to mental illness or mental health, we try to, a lot of the time, they try to put it as something that you shouldn't be going through, something that you should be so strong enough to deal with it by yourself. But that's not the case, because just like, if you're going through a physical illness, you'll need to go to a doctor for it. But just like if you're going through a mental illness, you need to speak to someone about it that is professionally trained, that can actually help you to resolve it. And so which mean what this comes down to is that there's a big misunderstanding of what mental health or mental health is. That's the misunderstanding of it. So mental health is seen sometimes as a luxury or a crisis only situation, or a crisis only service, meaning that mental health illness is something that people who are rich can actually get. Only people who are wealthy, people who can afford it in terms of richness, and who are wealthy, they are the only one that can really afford mental illness. And and sometimes many, because there are also many views that mental wellness as something only address that you can only address mental illnesses when you're having a crisis. So meaning that when you are down bad, when everything is going terrible, completely waiting for you, and when you are on the floor crawling, that's the only time that you should, that's in the crisis moment, that's the only time you should seek for mental help. And also, rather than just seeing it as something that you just don't need to do ongoing maintenance, just like you're ongoing maintaining your physical body, you are doing your best to exercise, you are doing your best to to focus on your nutrition. Just like that, it's an ongoing maintenance that you actually have to take, because all throughout our days, sometimes we go through things that we might not be paying attention, that actually cause us to develop a negative or a wrong mental pattern. And a lot of the time, these mental patterns are not really serving you. And it is always time for you to take a moment to have, yeah, just like you said, to have some inside care, because it's not only on the outside, but it's also on the inside that matters. And some people might think I'm functioning and I don't need it, because some people might think it's just like, a lot of the time they say, most men who are married tend to live longer, because their wives are telling them to go to their doctor or see their doctor. And some men who are not married, that's what they say, but they say men who are not married, sometimes they don't go to their doctors because they don't have nobody telling them to stop using, to calm down, and the habits that they are not that they are using that are not helping them, or they are basically not having a wife or somebody to basically tell them to go and take care of themselves. And so, and mental health, we tend to function like this as well. Not in the sense of we need a wife or we need somebody to tell us. A lot of the time we just think that, okay, it is, if we are functioning, if we are still able to wake up in the morning and do the things that we want to do, or the things that we need to do, then that means, that's a sign that means you are okay. So which means your mental health is okay. You don't have no problem internally. But that's not the case. That's a fact. That's a fake things to believe. It's really much a fake thing to believe. But we're gonna address this situation. Let me see what you said. Most just most just most just take care of what they see, like a womb. Yeah, they can see it and make and take care of that. But we all have womb also inside we can see. That is true. We all have womb inside that we cannot see, and these are the most dangerous wombs, because it's easier, or it's better to, when you are looking for something and you know what you're looking for. But once you don't know what you're looking for, and you know it can affect you, it can hold you back, it can basically reduce the quality of your life, then that's the scary part. That's really the hard part. But most people lack mental health understanding, and they don't know, okay, what to look out for, or they just don't know. And this is something that mental healing is very important, true. And we have somebody who's gonna just explain her story until she realized she had mental health
Struggle with
challenges.
depression and anxiety. I would have to say I realized it about 2 years ago. I noticed the mood swings. Like, one day I'd be up and the next day I'd be down, feeling like I don't want to go out in public. Almost
And this is a clear sign. If you're feeling like that, if you're feeling that you sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. I mean, in life there are moments that you're gonna feel up and down, but it's when you feel very, very high and you feel very, very lows. And that's when actually it gets dangerous.
agoraphobic, like, ugh, too much to deal with. And then there would be days where my brain wouldn't stop racing, I would think of the most worst scenarios in the world, which would heighten my anxiety. And, people were like,
And this is another thing too, because when it comes to mental health, it's not only about dealing with your anxieties, but it's more about having control over your thoughts, having control over some thoughts when they come into your mind, into your attention, that you can choose whether you want to entertain them or choose whether you want to remove them.
just need to meditate and yoga and things like that. And I would do that, but my brain would still race. For me, there was no
Yeah, because you can do, a lot of the time they say to do yoga or meditation, but yes, that can be a temporary moment. It's how do you use it as well, because that can be a temporary moment of getting away from the noise. But it's more about, okay, what is the thought that you don't want to constantly be repeating, and how you actually create a new thought. So what can you do about that? Because a lot of the time you can't, you know they say all of the time you can't stop yourself from thinking. And through meditation, it's kind of that you're trying to do, but not really. And sometimes meditation is not the end all to be all. It's not only the meditation that's actually going to help you, because for some people, they have such a hyperactive mind that meditation is not what's going to do it for them. And probably it's you. Then you need to find a different scenario or different route to actually be able to handle your mental challenge.
shame when I started to recognize it. It was like that I had to get some help because I'm the life of the party, and when I go dark, I go dark. I don't want to leave the house. And my friends started to notice me pulling back. My father, who also had his issues with mental health, was really open about it, about his manic
Yeah, that's the thing.
depression. But to notice me pulling back. My father, who also had his
Okay, so basically her father, sometimes when it comes to mental health, a lot of the time it comes from, you know, when it comes to different illnesses or different health challenges, we can inherit them from our parents. And that's one thing for sure, because we might not decide that we're gonna have it, but because we share genes or we share blood or we just share behaviors and we just different we just have the same mental challenges that our parents have been dealing with. So it is key to understand sometimes it's not just because of you, it's because of your lineage. But this is not something, I'm not saying this so you could actually, feel bad because of your parents or what your parents gave you. You didn't want it or you didn't decide to be mentally challenged or mentally ill or struggling with mental illnesses. That doesn't mean that you have to blame your parents, but this is where you are right now. So the question is, what are you gonna do about it? And because many people don't even recognize the symptoms of whatever whenever they are going through anxiety or depression or even a burnout, or they may believe that they simply thought will be able to think it out, or they will be able to say, okay, I'm able to just think that I don't have anxiety or depression anymore, and the thought I can use my thought to actually get it out. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you need different ways to actually address the same situation that you are going through. And they don't see, a lot of people, they don't see the legitimate need in comparison to physical health. Some people just don't see the need for addressing their mental health because it's not something that is physical. Just like I said, it's not something that you can see, so they don't believe that it's actually something that is affecting them. So we, as you know, especially when the way we look at health, a lot of the time we look at health from the outside standpoint or even from the inside standpoint, but not in the psyche standpoint or the mind or the emotion standpoint. But this is something to, to open your eyes and to be able to recognize that, health is something that is holistic. And we also suffer from economic or structural barrier, because a lot of people would say most times our insurance basically does not cover the cost that you need to have a mental health coach or mental health to pay for your mental health balance. So most health insurance basically don't cover mental health. And the thing is, if you need to wait and cannot, put your money aside for yourself to be able to, to handle to handle your mental health challenges or your mental health struggles, then you got to ask yourself, do you really care for yourself? Do you really love yourself? Because it's something that you can deal with. It's something that, is not something that you're going to constantly be, paying for. Some people, they go for years, but when you think about the amount of life that you have to live 60 or even 80 years old or even 90 years old. So taking some months to actually work on your mental health in comparison to the amount of life that you're gonna live is a very small blip in your timeline. So is because you gotta ask yourself, is your wellness are you gonna let your wellness be limited and controlled by what the health insurance can give you and offer you? Because there will also be other situation, because we're talking about now the barriers to actually getting your mental health wellness, because some people will say, okay, their insurance doesn't cover it, or it could be that they also don't have access to a good coach that can help them to make the appointments. Sometimes the appointments can be very difficult to make, or it can be very difficult to even find a coach, or it can be, very difficult for them to actually keep a regular schedule, because a lot of the time it can be very some people find it hard to maintain. You can pay it yourself if you want. If that's what I mean, you can pay it yourself if you really want it. And to think about it is that it's not something that you can, it's something, if you buy a shoe or if you buy a phone, you might keep it for a couple of years, and some people will keep it only for 1 year. But when you when you buy for when you invest in your mental health, then it's something that you can invest for your entire life, to be honest. And your mental is what we use, our mental capacities, our mental abilities, what we use to accomplish everything that we need to accomplish in our daily goals or in our daily lives. So, like 1 year, no vacation, but spend the money on your mental health. True, true. But that's the thing. You have your priorities, you understand what that means. But some people would just constantly neglect themselves and expect the best to come outside of them. They expect the best from themselves, but yet they are not really wanting to put the best into themselves. They will like try to put the best clothing on, or they'll like to get the best telephone or the best vacation spots. But although that's although that can be some form of therapy, but again, once you can go and take a vacation and you can come and you can get away from the problem, but that doesn't mean that the problem is still not there. That doesn't mean that you're gonna come back. A lot of the time you'll come back and get in the same rhythm and get to the same toxic problem that you've been dealing with. But but for me, with my online coaching, it makes it very easy, very and definitely easy for you to get a coach, for you to actually have access to me and access to actually solve your mental health challenges or get support for your mental health challenges. And we're gonna talk about this because on a vacation we only get relaxed in the inside problems still come back with us when we are home. Yes, exactly. Because, people think a lot of the time, some people think that they can just run away from their problems. Um, some people think they can always run away from their problems. To be honest, there are some problems you can run away from. But when we're talking about mental health here, there's not something that you can run away from. It's like trying to run away from yourself. How would that be possible? How would you are where you are. Everywhere you go, here you are. So your mental wellness is definitely dependent on you, whether you're here, there, over there, wherever you go. That's gonna be something that is that's gonna be part of you. It is what it is. But people just want to run away from it or attempt to run away from it. You cannot run from your inside, true. You cannot. So but the thing is, since we live in a marketing or very consumerism culture, things are very, very heavily marketed. Things are very heavily targeted towards us to every day to buy stuff, to spend your money because that's gonna give you a momentarily distraction from your mental challenge that you are dealing with. Ladies, tell me, listen to this. Let me know if you can relate.
1950s only bought 10 new pieces. Did you know that the average woman in the 1950s only bought 10 new pieces of clothes per year? And each piece she kept for over 10 years. Did you know that today the average woman buys 68 new pieces of clothing per year and on average only keeps each piece for 2 years, wearing each piece only an average of 7 times before getting rid of it? This is your
I mean, we can say as well, I'm going to look at this from a balanced standpoint because one thing is for sure is that the time that we're living in, products are easily being made. There are so many products out there and it's easier to get. You can order something right now and you can get it this week. So this is like, of course, it's going to make us we are spending more on material things than we ever have because it's so easy, accessible. It's so easy for you to want something and for you to see it and then for you to actually order it and for you to have it in front of your door. And let me see.
friendly reminder that having more clothes, more shoes, more makeup, more trendy bullshit products will never make you more attractive or more happy. It just makes you easy to sell to. Overconsumption is extremely normalized today.
Yeah, it makes it easy to sell to because you create that habit of constantly buying stuff in order to get away, to soothe yourself, to soothe your mental challenge or emotional challenge that you're going through. You constantly want to buy stuff rather than addressing the root cause of the problem. You try to, cover it up with things, and we try to, mask it with different things. And that creates, you constantly getting things. It creates a situation where you are easy to be sold to.
Especially on social media, we're told by influencers and celebrities that it's normal to want and have hundreds of clothes in your closet. Fast fashion has skyrocketed and become a $100 billion industry. Did you know that clothing production contributes to 10% of greenhouse gas emissions and accounts for over 20% of global water pollution? Yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of the time, we are so unaware of the damages that we are creating just for the momentary happiness that we actually are going through. The happiness that we get from buying these things are so fleeting. It's not, we can get something right now, and then all of a sudden, maybe the other day or just in a week from now, we don't really care about what these things that we get. It just didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But the thing is, we still get it. And we are fueling or momentarily feeling and destroying the planet in general, in terms of the water system and in terms of the ecosystem, creating more global impact that are just negative. And a lot of people just don't really care about that. You got to ask yourself, really, you don't really care about how your kids or how your siblings or how your friends gonna live this planet when you leave it behind? Or you just leave the problem for the other people who come in behind you, or for the other generation to handle, which is totally selfish way of looking at life.
Our cute, trendy clothes are polluting the ocean with cute little microplastics. If your top cost you $20, the person who made it probably only made 20 cents. I highly recommend watching this YouTube video if you want to learn more about the reality of how our cheap clothes are really made and at what expense. When I was younger and I didn't know any better, I bought a lot of clothes.
Yeah, okay, so we get the point here, because we are constantly bombarded with ads, links, products, to create a momentary or just a fake happiness, to create status, or sometimes a lot of the time it's fake status, because sometimes people just say fake it till you make it, or just want to look better than the other person, but yet when it comes to the actual status, they don't have it. That's why a lot of the time you'll see the people who have the most status, they wouldn't really want to show it as much, or they don't try to put it in everybody's face. But people who don't have the status, they are the ones who trying to show this fake status and try to force it in other people's face. And people try to create their own identity as well by the things they wear, by the things they actually buy. This message, the message that this sends out is a message of buy this now and you'll feel better. That's the message that we constantly try to send, trying to get this thing right now because it's gonna make you to feel better. And surely it can make you feel better, but the thing is, this feeling better is not gonna last. And it's not something that's gonna cover or even remedy your mental challenge or your mental illness that you're going through. And that's the worst thing. You can be spending your money, but yet you are spending your money, and it creates even more problem we're gonna discuss. Because mental health services are not just, are not advertised in a glamorous way or in a passive way, just like how clothing are advertised. When you think about the iPhone, for example, all majority of the iPhones, it's just the advertisement for it is so glamorous. It's so, it's something that you want to get. But when it comes to mental health, it's like, how would you advertise that? Because most people just would look at it and just don't get. So don't put it as importance, because there are a lot of stigmas in the things that we've talked about earlier. And the marketing of self-care has been overtaken by consumer goods, like, for example, candles or bath products. And this further confuses the issue, And what we tend to do is that you treat yourself with a different narrative, because you know the treat yourself narrative, because what we try to do is try to create different narratives in order to have to put to excuse from the mental illness that we are going through, or the mental challenge or the emotional challenge that we are going through. That's what we have something called retail shopping. So meaning that go buy something is actually culturally accepted as a quick mood booster, or even a reward for your hard work. And sometimes it is very much like I said, an immediate thing. Is an immediate is immediate because you feel that you get this thing right now, but it's a quick shot of dopamine. It's a quick hit of dopamine rush, and it's very much fleeting. It's not something that is there to last. Working in your mental health and your emotional health is something that will last you, for as long as you can. And this brought me to this topic because we internalize capitalist values. So meaning that we are conditioned to measure our worth, our progress by external things. And for a lot of times we can think that we are people and we are God made or whatever you believe in, but we are just constantly trying to create our worth from the outside and rather than our worth from the inside. And especially that we a lot of the time we even know that even from the outside is not something that's gonna last, because what our character, our attitude inside, our mental stability is what's actually gonna last. Because again, I'm not gonna look the way that I look 50 years now if I happen to live 50 years. But what I'm gonna be able to live with is my mental, my mental flexibility, my mental ability to endure. So our mental state isn't as easy displayed. Our mental state, you cannot really measure it so easily. But again, we live in a culture of constant therapy. Somebody feel bad, oh, let me just go buy these things, or let me go spend on this thing to feel bad. And this is what this person have to say about it, because we constantly are buying things.
There's nothing you can buy in a shopping mall that you will give a fuck about in 10 years. Nothing. It's nothing for you there. Fast forward, do something for you in 5 years' time. Don't buy the thing. You don't need it.
There's nothing that you can buy, that you can ever buy, that you would care about.
It makes people think.
And something is nothing that you can buy that can make you think that you're gonna think about in the 5 years. But the thing is, when you work in your mental health, in the 5 years, you're gonna be able to reap the reward of it. You will still be able to learn, to know what you learned, to know that what you've been through. And if the situation shows up in your life again, you would know how to handle it. You will know what are the things that you have to do. You will have this self-awareness, and you can create your self-love, or you can be able to manage yourself whenever that you need. So this is the importance of this. You can buy a shirt. Something that you could use for a short period of time. But once you invest in a mental health, then it's something that you can constantly, because as much as mental health is something that we can be dealing with different mental health challenges. But once you've learned to deal with certain mental health challenges, they can repeat in your life, but you'll know how to handle them. It becomes more of a life skill, becomes more of a life awareness that you can deal with. So people are dealing with fear and even avoidance for mental health solution. A lot of the time, people are just fearful about that. Just fearful about confronting the issues that they are dealing with, because it's very hard to confront it. Because again, we already talked about there are a lot of different stigmas to why people don't want to confront their issues, because engaging with mental health means confronting them. So also the reason why they don't want to confront them, because the emotions can be very painful, the trauma can be very painful, and even the pattern to think about what they went through can be a very uncomfortable, painful situation for them. So what is the easiest thing for us to do? Just basically just don't do anything about it. And although we might feel that this is the right way of actually going about it, is that what we don't address is constantly gonna keep repeating in our lives, and we're not gonna be able to get the the mental peace that you need, the mental freedom that you need, because this situation, although you if you don't want to take the momentarily or the moment of discomfort, and you constantly just want to avoid it, or you're just fearful of actually going through the emotion or sit through the emotions for that moment, because again, mental health is not something that you can, it's something that you renew, something that you constantly maintain. But once you start doing the real work, and that you can actually be able to have a flexible way of actually seeing your addressing your struggle, then you'll know how to deal with it whenever or if ever it comes back in your life. But if you are afraid, or you just don't want to, basically you're trying to avoid the trauma, you're trying to avoid the pattern, then you're not doing anything. So which means like saying that you are saying yes to the mental challenge that you are dealing with, or to the emotional challenge that you're dealing with. You're saying yes to it by not doing anything about it. You're saying yes, that's what you want to happen in your life, by not doing anything about it. And also, because one thing is for sure, we cannot, the truth is mental emotional work, it is quite demanding, it is quite very heavy work, because it's can be, like I said, it can be a situation that is very uncomfortable, we don't want to go through it, and it can create situation that we just don't want to visit in general. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't visit. That doesn't mean that you are unable to solve it, or find a more helpful way to deal with it. So, and that's why a lot of the time some people just move through shopping, because shopping can be a very much temporary distraction to avoid the discomfort. But the thing is, how much shopping can you do? And when would shopping not be enough for you to actually handle the mental illness that you're going through, or the mental challenge that you're going through? And then what? And then it's gonna be something else, and it's gonna be most of the things that you're gonna be trying to use to mask it or to distract yourself from it is not gonna be helpful. It's not gonna be habits that you actually are proud of, rather. These are gonna be habits that you don't want to have, or these habits that you just must have, because you are not focusing on the things that on the actual solution to what you are dealing with. Then that caused the problem. You keep going, you keep going after what you want, because you keep going after what you want than rather what you need. Because the problem is, you are going through this mental challenge, and you are trying to maybe distract yourself with such and such, and there are many destructive ways that you are distracting yourself. But this is what you want, but it's not what you need. And along the way, if you can imagine someone who's just constantly going through shopping, as a retail way of actually trying to avoid the discomfort of addressing their mental challenge or their emotional health, it can create a situation where they go more in depth, and they owe more money, or they go into a situation where they become more addictive, or addicted to something, to a substance that they don't want to be addicted to, that they don't want, that they are unable to stop. Because there's a difference that sometimes some people, we have vices, some things that we use to help us to relax or to just pass the moment. But if it's becoming a situation that you cannot stop it, then that's it has control over you rather than you have control over it. And some people fear that money spent on coaching will not give them a guaranteed result, because a lot of the time, again, we already talked about this in the past, there's nothing in life is guaranteed. So that doesn't mean that because you don't have a guaranteed result that okay, for sure this is gonna work, that means that you shouldn't do it. It's like saying, again, it's like just basically give up. It's actually a lack of logic to say, I'm not gonna do this because there's no guarantee that is gonna help me. But how would you know? If you haven't done it, then of course you would think that it wouldn't work because you haven't done it. But the only way to find out is to, to do it and actually give it your all. And some people, because it's very important that you give it your all, because some people would just like want to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They are very skeptic. They're like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work, or this is that, But if you're gonna be spending your time, if you decide that you're gonna be spending your money, you're gonna prioritize yourself and decide that you're gonna be spending your money in your mental wellness and your emotional wellness, you're gonna be like, okay, wouldn't it make more sense for you to be all in? Because that's the thing. If you are 1 foot in, 1 foot out, what do you think is gonna happen? Can you go inside a door? Can you enter your home if you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and you're just trying to just walk against you're gonna stick in one spot. If you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, eventually if you're trying to enter your home, you have to bring the foot that is out inside. So you can, even though there's 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but yet you have to make a decision. Okay, I'm gonna go inside. So that's the thing. If you're gonna spend your time, just go all in. Let it, although it's gonna be difficult, everything is difficult in the very beginning. So, but that doesn't mean that you're not able to actually achieve it. So this is what, a lot of the time, this is what mental wellness means. Or this is if you think about mental wellness, this is what you should, think about.
The less flexible that it is. So very healthy people have extraordinarily flexible personalities.
Let me restart it again one more time.
The less healthy the personality, the less flexible that it is. So very healthy people have extraordinarily flexible personalities. So the core of mental health is flexibility. It's almost like
she said, the less healthy the personality, the more flexible that you are in your mental illness. Your mental wellness. This is very key to understand, because although it's very simple, this thing that she just said, but it's very profound, it's very heavy. Because one thing is for sure, we look at everything in life, everything change. And one thing that can also keep us behind is constantly holding a belief, a thought pattern, or a feeling that it should have been changed. So the flexibility, you are fixed. I already talked about this in the past. It's still good to have a flexible mindset, a flexible way of seeing the world, because everything change. If you're trying to, although there are some things that shouldn't change, like your character, but some things should always change. Meaning it can change, it can evolve, it can be better. And also, this is the way that you should look at mental wellness.
Physical health, right? A person who's physically healthy has a lot of flexibility in their muscles and joints. A mentally healthy person has a lot of flexibility in their psyche.
How do we define flexibility in our psyche?
I would say it's an adaptability.
Adaptability, that you are able to adapt. So just because you are going through mental challenge or even emotional health issues, that doesn't mean that you are not able to adapt. You might be able to adapt in some ways. You might be able to cope in some ways, but there are certain times we can hit a wall that we are not able to adapt. So adaptation, we talk about that also. It's to be able to, to go with life, go with the flow of life. And sometimes the flow might be good, and sometimes it might not be what you hope for. And that doesn't mean that you should, you shouldn't be able to, your goal should always be able to rise above the storm, or rise above the flow of what your life is, what you're going through in your life.
It is a self-awareness and
self-awareness. That means all the time, you can be going through some things and you're not aware of what you're going through, and you're not aware what you're saying, what you're doing, how your action is doing, what is it doing to other people. That can mean you just lack of self-awareness. And one thing about self-awareness, then you can see not just how you are projecting yourself to other people, but also what people are projecting to you.
Awareness of others. It's the ability to engage in novel problem solving and not get stuck on a singular solution.
True. Because sometimes we can get stuck we can have a problem that we are going through, and we see only one solution to it. That's a fixed mindset. A flexible mindset will see so many different solutions and then wanting to and have the mental flexibility to try to wanting to try new solution and wanting to have a new approach. And that doesn't mean to keep skipping from coach to coach, because a lot of the time, if you don't give, again, you have to give it a try. You have to really give it a try.
It's the capacity to be able to self-regulate and to self-soothe.
Yes, self-regulate is like, if you are angry, sometimes you have to bring yourself down. If you are going through a situation that you're moody, sometimes you have to regulate yourself. We do that, but sometimes people, rather than regulate themselves, they compress themselves. They don't allow themselves to still be freely able to express their emotions, what they're going through, but they are compressing themselves or oppressing themselves. We can do that to ourselves as well, but it's key when addressing your mental health, then you'll be able to tell the difference.
Disappointment, there's the capacity to cope with it. That is the core of health. I've worked with people who've survived severe trauma. The ones who really are standing in a different way, it's that flexibility, right? And you think about it. If a tree is flexible, it'll bend with the wind. The less healthy the...
You gotta be flexible, because life is ever changing. Life is dynamic. Life is so many things happening from different places. It's so dynamic. And one thing, it's like, I don't know if you guys ever been in very deep water. I remember for me, like just a small story, because that just come to mind. I remember for me, I always loved to swim in deep ocean. And yeah, not very, very deep, but just deep that, it's like meters above 40 meters deep. But not more than 100 meters deep. But when you get so deep in the water, you would see that the waves can be very high, and the waves can be coming at different areas. There will be a major wave, of course, that's coming and going this way. But the water is also so variable. It's so dynamic. The water is like, there's so many things happening at once. And if you really want to find your way, meaning that if you don't want to be going under, or you don't want to be panicking, or because it can be very much scary when you look down in the water, you cannot see the floor, you cannot see the depth of the water. All you see is just fishes, and that's if you're lucky, because some waters can be very deep and it's become so deep blue you cannot see the bottom. And when you're in the top, a lot of the time, what you got to do in order to be able to go with the wave and get to the shore is just to relax. Because if you panic, then you're gonna lose faith. You're gonna lose track of where the wave is going, and the wave is gonna carry you. Because remember, just like there's a major wave, there's a lot of different small turbulence along the way that's constantly keep pushing you, pulling you in different direction. But again, once you have a direction that you want to go in, it's then all you got to do is just relax and calm down, and actually be able to go towards the shore. Thank you. So there's also, when it comes to people spending on the things and not their mental health or emotional health, there's also a social variability and signal. Mental health is something that is always invisible. And thank you, I appreciate it. Doing the inner work doesn't come with a badge or others can see immediately, because a lot of the time we want to get something that is tangible, or something that some people want to get a medal, some people want to get something that is tangible that can say, hey, this is what you get from addressing your mental wellness. This is what you get from working on your mental wellness. But some people would think, okay, there's no tangible to it, but there is a tangibleness to it. You will be more at peace with yourself. You will be more, more happy with yourself. You will be more in control of your life, be more in control of your emotions. When things happen, you know, when the situation gets very turbulent, when the situation gets very chaotic, then you'll be able to stay calm within yourself because you know, okay, you know how to deal with it. It's not something, it's just a moment, it's just a situation that you have to deal with momentarily. It's not like gonna be, it's not the end of your life, it's not the end all of be all. So the benefits of mental health is, again, some things that you can know already. The benefit of your mental health is, you know, you have a better relationship with yourself or better relationships in general. You would know exactly what is a better relationship, and you would know also what are the impossibilities or the what sort of relationship that you are able to get in different situations. In other words, don't worry about things that you can control. That is true. Don't worry about things that you can control. So you'll be able to emotionally regulate. You'll be able again to be more resilient, because again, life is ever changing, life is variable, life is full of chaos. But to be able to be resilient in the face of chaos, that's a true skill, that's a true way of finding your peace and finding your freedom. And these things are profound, but they are private. It's something that you are able to achieve for yourself and for yourself for the rest of your life. And people fall also in a contradiction. So meaning this creates a lot of the time a cycle where people spend money on things that to temporarily feel good or just to cope on. We already talked about that. They try to spend money on things that, you know, give them this feeling of feeling good at the very moment, to, you know, to manage their stress or anxiety or even a low self-esteem. But this often leads to financial stress, as I've told you guys already. It creates a bigger mess for themselves. It makes the mental challenge or the emotional health, the emotional struggle that they are going through even more bigger, or it creates other challenges that they have to address. And this creates the need for different services that they are trying to avoid. They're trying to avoid addressing the mental or their emotional health, but at the end of the day, you cannot run away from yourself, because one day you still have to address it. That's the thing. One day you must address it, because there will be a point that you would be, again, remember, a lot of the time people would be addressing their mental challenges when they are in a deficit, when things are the worst, when they hit a rock bottom. But again, don't allow yourself to reach so low in order to pay attention to yourself, to give your body, to give your mental and your emotional health what it needs. At the time is to address it right now, and you can prioritize it. And it's not something that you're gonna be doing for your whole life, meaning something that you're gonna be doing when you have the skills to be able to manage yourself and to emotionally regulate and to be more resilient. But these skills are some skills that you would learn to be able to deal with your life, whatever